All right, royal hit friends. According to a recent report citing unnamed royal insiders, Prince Harry reportedly wants to spend more time in the United Kingdom, while Meghan Markle is said to be far less enthusiastic about the idea. The report claims their marriage has become a topic of conversation within royal circles and suggests their different priorities are becoming increasingly visible to people around them. Buckingham Palace hasn't confirmed them. Harry hasn't commented. Neither has Meghan. So we should treat these reports exactly for what they are. First-time observers have noticed Harry spending more time connected to Britain, whether that's court appearances, charity events, or visits tied to his military background, while Meghan's public projects remain centered in California. That pattern has been building for a while now, quietly in the background of other headlines. And when patterns start matching new claims, people naturally begin asking questions. Coincidence? Two busy people with separate careers who simply spend time in different places? Or is there something more to it, a genuine divergence in where they each see their future? Drop your thoughts below. I'm curious how split the comments are on this one because usually with Harry and Meghan content, it's about as divided as it gets. One of the more interesting parts of the report isn't actually about marriage at all. It's about lifestyle. And honestly, I think this is the part that gets buried under all the divorce speculation headlines, even though it might be the more revealing detail. According to the unnamed source, Harry and Meghan allegedly see fame very differently these days. That's not a new observation. People have floated versions of this idea since before they even left royal duties behind. But it's worth sitting with for a second because it does line up with what we've actually seen play out publicly. Harry still appears deeply connected to causes like the Invictus Games, an event that's clearly personal to him given his military service. Whenever he returns to Britain for legal matters or for charity commitments tied to those causes, those visits inevitably become major headlines, often bigger headlines than anything happening with his media projects in the US. Meanwhile, Meghan has focused heavily on projects based in the United States, including media ventures and lifestyle branding efforts that are clearly built around an American audience and an American business landscape. There's nothing unusual about spouses pursuing separate careers. Many successful couples do exactly that. Different industries, different schedules, different countries even, especially when each person's work is genuinely rooted in a specific place. Plenty of marriages function perfectly well with that kind of arrangement. The question becomes, at what point does separate work begin looking like separate lives? That's where public speculation begins. Because from the outside, all we can really observe is where do they show up, how often, and together or apart? And when those observations start forming a consistent shape, people fill in the story themselves. That's where speculation lives, in the gaps between what we actually know and what we assume. And speculation isn't evidence. It never has been, but it certainly keeps the internet busy, and it's clearly part of why this story is getting the attention it's getting right now. If Harry truly wants to spend more time in Britain, it's not difficult to understand why, even setting aside all of the anonymous source drama around it. Whatever disagreements exist between Harry and the institution, and there have clearly been plenty of those over the past several years, well documented in his own words through interviews and his memoir, Britain is still where he grew up. It's where he served in the military, a chapter of his life he's spoken about as being formative in a way that very little else has been for him. It's where many of his oldest relationships began, long before any of the public disputes, long before Meghan, long before any of the headlines we're discussing right now. Those connections don't simply disappear because someone moves overseas. People don't stop missing home just because they've built a new life somewhere else. That's true for pretty much anyone, famous or not. The report claims Meghan remains resistant to relocating from California. If true, that's not exactly shocking either. Her business ventures, her media projects, and much of her adult life have been built in the US. Uprooting all of that wouldn't be simple, and there's no particular reason to assume she'd want to. If both of those things are accurate, Harry pulled toward Britain, Meghan rooted in California, that creates a practical challenge more than a dramatic one. But it does explain why stories like this continue resurfacing. Because even without any confirmation of real trouble, the surface level facts, where each of them spends their time, are genuinely a little unusual for a married couple. And unusual patterns invite speculation, especially when the people involved are this famous. Another headline grabbing attention is the claim that the palace is quietly preparing contingency plans. That sounds dramatic, as if there's some secret binder somewhere labeled "in case of Sussex divorce," until you think about what large institutions actually do on a daily basis. Organizations plan for possibilities all the time. Governments do it, corporations do it. Royal households, which are essentially large, old institutions with communications teams and legal departments, almost certainly do it too. Not because they expect the worst, but because that's simply how institutions operate. They prepare for scenarios, likely and unlikely, as a matter of routine. If this report is accurate, contingency planning doesn't necessarily mean anyone expects a separation. It may simply mean officials consider different scenarios, the same way they'd consider contingency plans for 100 other things that never actually happen. The report also claims King Charles remains focused on Harry's well-being and believes family matters deserve careful attention. That framing lines up with the general public tone Charles has tried to strike since becoming king: measured, cautious, avoiding public conflict wherever possible, especially when it comes to his own family. Again, this is attributed to unnamed sources, not confirmed by the palace, not something Charles has said publicly himself, but it does paint a picture, at least according to these reports, of a father who still hopes for stability rather than further conflict. Whether that's accurate or simply a flattering narrative being fed to a friendly outlet, we genuinely don't know. That's the honest answer here, even if it's not a satisfying one. Here's what fascinates me about all of this, maybe more than the actual content of the report itself. Every Harry and Meghan story now follows almost exactly the same cycle. It's practically a formula at this point. A report appears, usually citing anonymous sources. Social media immediately divides into opposing camps. One side declares the marriage finished, treating the headline as if it were a confirmed press release. The other dismisses everything as media invention, treating every single report as automatically false simply because it's unflattering. Within hours, millions of people who've never met either of them, who have no actual insight into their marriage, become relationship experts. Confident predictions, detailed timelines, strong opinions built entirely on secondhand claims from unnamed sources. And somewhere in the middle, the actual facts often become the smallest part of the conversation. Every headline gets treated less like news and more like a plot development in an ongoing series. That's a very different conversation from the one we were having a few years ago, back when the questions were mostly about the split from royal duties, the move to the US, the interviews. This feels like a quieter, more speculative phase, less about big dramatic announcements, more about reading tea leaves in travel patterns and anonymous quotes. According to the reports, Harry may feel increasingly drawn toward Britain, his home, his history, the relationships he built long before any of this began. According to those same reports, Meghan appears committed to building her future in California, her business ventures, her media career, the life she's constructed there. If those claims are true, finding common ground could become increasingly challenging, the way it does for any couple juggling two demanding careers rooted in two different countries. If they're not true, then this becomes another reminder of how quickly anonymous source stories can dominate the news cycle, shaping public perception long before or even without any actual confirmation. So here's today's question. Do you believe these reports point toward a genuine change in Harry and Meghan's future? Or are we simply watching another round of royal speculation driven by unnamed insiders with no real accountability for being wrong? Drop your verdict in the comments. I really do want to hear both sides on this one. If you enjoyed this breakdown, leave a like, subscribe to Royal Hit 24, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Until next time, keep questioning the headlines before believing them.